Hey guys, I'm making another video again about the eclipse, and I wanted to talk more about it. I took some notes down because it's so many things to talk about. We know that we're having the eclipse tomorrow, and it's also a new moon in Leo, a fire sign, okay? And this is a solar eclipse, so it's going to be dark all over the US at a certain time, going from the west coast to the east coast. We're all going to get a chance to see this eclipse. So we know that the moon comes in between the sun and the earth, and at that right angle we get the eclipse. Okay, every other time it's at a tilt, so we don't get that. But eclipse happen all the time, 2 to 5 times throughout the year, maybe more. It's not a debate, it's just there's a lot of eclipse. Most of the times it happens over the ocean, so we don't see it. But this time we get to see it in the States. It affects us here in the States more than it does others around the world, but everyone will feel the effects of it. And in our time now, we all have videos, we can all communicate on the internet, so we see things as they happen. So as I was looking this over, I was like, holy fire nation, like, oh my god, you know, it's like holy avatar. This is like the grand fire triad is happening. You have 3 fire signs that's there. Usually it could be any element, but this time it is all fire. You have Leo, you have Sagittarius, and you have Aries. Okay, so we have that to deal with. Let's start with the North Node. So the North Node, we have Leo. In Uranus, we have Aries, and Saturn, we have Sagittarius. So we have those 3. So the North Node has to do with who do I want to be in this life. So if you look at your chart, right, you're like, okay, say that your North Node is Leo. Then what are the good aspects, the powerful aspects of Leo? You can use that in your life right now, those characteristics, that go-getter personality to get things done. Leos are known for that. They're like the entertainer. All the fire signs are like really powerful, but the Leos are like the entertainers of the chart, if you will, right? So we have the North Node in Leo, which is a fighter element, and we know Leo represented by the lion, so that royal, powerful, in control energy is in effect right now for the North Node. Now, the North Node is, of course, your mission in life that I mentioned, and then the opposite is this in the South Node is Aquarius. Now, Aquarius is known as the future thinker. So they're like the humanitarian. They question things that are going on. They're the intellectual. They are the visionary. They're ahead of their time. So Aquarius is an air sign, but they have a lot of water element as well. People will assume that they're water signs. They're an air sign. They're future thinkers. They are very in tune with their emotions. They know that if they're born in a certain time, they'll feel out of place because they're not with the times. And if something seems off, they're the ones to usually bring it up and talk about it for an air sign. Now, and air signs are great at communications, right? So they're great communicators. Now we have Uranus in Aries. So the Uranus energy is well, Uranus is the ruler of also Aquarius. So, and Saturn also rules Aquarius, but Sagittarius is in Saturn. So we'll get to that. But what I found interesting is that you have Uranus, which is about celebrating originality, change, and it's about challenging traditions. And then now you have Aries, who likes to be in control, who is known as number 1 in the zodiac, and now you have this conflict of that. Okay, so if they're both their own powerhouse. So you have Uranus, the sky god, the forward thinker, they challenge traditions, they celebrate new ideas, new way of thinking, the individual. And now you have Aries, which is also independent in its own right, and it also likes to take things in new direction as they feel fit. So now you have these powerful fire signs also mixing with these planets that have their own power and their own right. So this Uranus energy is very forward thinking, right? It's very open and freeing, where Aries wants to be free but also likes to control. So you have that. Now Aquarius rules the 11th house, which is friends, which is being social, right? So you're having people now communicating with each other, and they are not only communicating just as friends and social and different organizations, but they're connecting on like a more soul level, where they are communicating for the greater good, right? So this energy will, the energy of Aquarius will look at things and see how things are going and say, okay, where can we lift the energy, lift the vibration, the consciousness of everyone, right? So that's what I wanted. That was amazing. We also have Mercury retrograde from the 12th to and to the 30th in August. So we also have that energy of stepping back and looking at things for what they are, right? And we'll get to the moon card because that's going to come up in the numerology as well. So now we have the Mercury going retrograde, where you don't sign contracts. If you have to make sure you double check it. You don't agree to certain things. You want to take your time slowly to see what things really are. But this retrograde time, we know, is communication, right? Mercury is communication. It rules Gemini. It rules communication, the air sign of Gemini. So you have this communication energy that could go wrong, right? So, and usually it does, but this is where we have to listen, and we have to see things for what they really are, and give ourselves time. Now the Saturn in Sagittarius, Saturn is known as, I like to call it the messenger, or the teller, the preacher of the planets, right? So Sagittarius is all about delays, boundaries, restrictions, discipline, skills, organization. So here you have like a rigid Saturn, and now you have Sagittarius in Saturn. So Sagittarius is like the traveler, right? The free thinker. They're the optimists. They don't like to be controlled. They're very optimistic, right? But if they're pushed, they are very outspoken, and they want to make sure that everything and everyone is okay, but they're also a fire sign, so they're going to think about their own self-interest first, which is not bad. All these fire signs are very independent in their own way, okay? So now you have Sagittarius, who is a free thinker. They're very social, okay? Sometimes they can be very stand back and they'll watch everything, they'll see what's going on, but Sagittarius are very social. Gemini is their opposite on the chart. So if you have that air and fire together, it's amazing, right? So they're like really wonderful communicators. They love to get their message across, and they love to be on the front lines of whatever is going on, right? They want to make sure, just like Aquarius, that everyone is being heard, right? And that what is right is done. Now, what this means now with the Saturn and the Sagittarius energy together right now, what I found very interesting was that it's time to take responsibility. So this is it. Take responsibility. So how can we take responsibility for ourselves, for what we're thinking, what we're doing, right? So this is what Sagittarius and Saturn is asking us, is to take responsibility. And now we have to ask ourselves, what affects us? What affects me? And how does it affect me? So it's self, it's any issues around the self. Now, what I found interesting is that there's also this energy of, with the Leo energy of selfhood and caring about self. Leo, the Leo energy cares about itself, that north node, right? That higher, what you're meant to do in this life. Like, what am I meant to do in this life, right? and it's a balance of that. And when it's a balance of the Leo energy of in the North Node saying, which I think is really powerful, and that's my favorite thing to mention is the North Node, and to focus on that, because when you're in this life, you want to know what you want to do in your life, right? And this powerful energy of Leo is saying, I want to do what's right for me, but then I see something that's BS and I have to call it out, right? So self-preservation, what do I want to do for me, you know, focus the energy on me. But then it's like, well, if the energy is focusing on me and everything around me is chaotic, right, in this North Node, then I can't aspire to my full potential, my life purpose. Everything is chaotic and there's blockage there, right? Because we have Saturn with the restriction for Sagittarius. So like all these fire signs at their best, they're fighting. It's like they're not fighting each other. Well, they are in a sense, but it's bringing to the conscious mind for us to actually look at things for what they are. And then we have, of course, the Mercury in retrograde. So I think that's really, really interesting. Now, what I wrote down for, well, let's get to the numerology part. So the numerology for the month is 18 if you add it up. Now, if you break down, if you look at 18 in the for tarot cards, it is, and I know this, 9 is the Hermit, but 18 is the Moon. I said it earlier, 18 is the Moon, and the Moon is like moving into the unknown, what you don't know. And when we first look at the Moon card, it represents the unknown, right? Something might look one way and it's the other, but then you actually take a moment to really look at it, right? And then you see things for what they really are. So it's kind of like the trickster, right? I like to think of the Moon card as like the trickster. It's like your eyes are playing tricks on you, and we're having an eclipse, right? So this month of August is an 18 month. So with the Moon card being the 18th card, it's like, okay, look at things for what they really are, right? You know, are my eyes deceiving me? Are the words and the picture matching up here, right? So you look at it and you're like, okay, I have to see this for what it really is. And then when you see it for what it really is, sometimes you have to move forward. So it's like moving forward, right? But even moving forward, you're still unsure. You might have reservations, being afraid of something, being concerned, but there's still the action, still the need of moving forward. Then you have the Hermit card. So if you the 18th becomes 9, and then the Hermit card is look within. The Hermit's always about being kind of reclusive, at the same time forward moving forward, but also having time to actually study everything, to look at it for what it is, go within yourself to actually understand it. Once you have all this information, it's like, okay, now I gotta look at what it means for me. So for with 18 as well, you have 1, which is independent. It represents assertiveness, strong will, new beginnings, a pure energy. And 8 represents, if you think of Leo energy, of strength, strong will, all of that, right? And 9 also represents endings and beginnings, right? And another thing that I found interesting was in 1918, the 18 number again was the last eclipse in the U.S. We're in an 18th month. It was 1918. I thought that was pretty interesting. So how those numbers kind of match up right there. So yeah, and another important thing about this month, it's for the number 18, it also represents abundance and what we can manifest, but it also represents, which I thought was interesting, is karma, right? And relationship, but also personal inner strength. So I thought that was very interesting. So with all of this going on, and it's a very fire energy, and usually the opposite of fire would be air, right? So if we're talking about, if we switch it now, we're talking about partnerships, right? We have the water element and we have earth. Water is the earth, plants grow, right? So they're the two elements that can work together in harmony the best, okay? Then we have air and we have fire, right? So air blows on fire, fire ignites even more, and fire spreads, right? So if it's like you're trying to do something positive, it will work. You will work together as a team. It will work. However, with this eclipse and a new moon in Leo and the grand fire trine, it's like holy avatar, the Fire Nation has taken over. So for the yogis out there, if you're meditating and if you do practice Kundalini yoga, you meditate with a grounded meditation, a meditation to ground you, because it's so much energy going on right now, and you want to do it by water. What does this mean? If you're not by a river, a stream, a lake, ocean, what am I missing? A pond, whatever. We know where water is, right? So if you're not there, you can have a bowl of water. You can have a bottle of water, which I normally have by me. I don't right now. Or you know, even if you're in the other room, you're not going to meditate in your bathroom. But maybe, I don't know, maybe if it's a large, beautiful bathroom. But fill up the bathtub with water. You're in the next room. The door is open. But you want to, you know, even a bowl of water, but you want to do a grounding meditation. You don't want to pull down any energy. From the classes I'm taking and from what I've learned, you don't want to pull down the energy from above or from the earth. You don't want to do any kind of energy work if you don't have to. If you're a Reiki practitioner, you do Tai Chi, Qigong, any kind of energy work. You don't want to pull down on anything just because you know the astrology and how things are lined up right now. Okay, what else did I want to say? So much information. It's like boom, 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 right? But a lot of willpower, a lot of responsibility is in the air right now. I already mentioned Aquarius rules the 11th house, which is about family and people communicating. But this communication is not just finance and networking and organization. It looks at all of this, and that Aquarius energy is so forward thinking that they're like, let's connect on a soul level. Like, what is for the greater good? And that's the energy. And when it comes to any kind of spiritual practices that you want to do, you want to look inward at yourself. Okay, so with this eclipse coming and this darkness, you want to ground yourself and you want to look within. Okay, and I think in the other video I mentioned that the sun is our consciousness and the moon is our unconscious, right? And we want to really look at what is good for me and what is my greater good. And your greater good, for the highest good, for the highest good is going to be what will have some form of balance, some form of peace, right? You don't want to do anything chaotic. And it's a great time of waking up and letting go of things that don't benefit you, right? You want to let go of that, but you don't want to even you want to focus on that by grounding yourself. And when you ground yourself, you realize that you have a sense of calm. You're not pulling on any energy. You're just grounding yourself. Let's see what else I wanted to mention. Yes, so we're going within, right? And when we go within, it's a great time to reset ourselves, right? To reset ourselves. And the interesting thing about the North Node also being in Leo, and I'm always talking about whenever I ask them what their zodiac is, or I usually guess their zodiac correctly, I always guess the element of their rising sign, right? Because it's usually, you know, and if I get their sign wrong, I'm like, yeah, you must be this other rising sign. But the North Node being in Leo is that this is like such a master yourself and taking self-responsibility. Again, it's matching up with everything else of taking responsibility for yourself. Even though Saturn can be very strict, But then the Leo is also strict, and all the other fire signs have their own form of strictness, if you will, that they hold on to, that allows them to persevere. So this Leo energy is also asking you to look at yourself, but look at yourself on a grander scale, not just for personal gain. Because with all of this conflicting, all the fire signs are like, okay, me, but there's chaos, so we got to fix it, right? So how can you be a better leader for yourself and master yourself, right? So it's mastering yourself in the chaos, right? And with all this said, the eclipse is a beautiful time to look within and just to observe it. It's a beautiful thing to observe, but on a spiritual and energetic level of affecting our emotions. And we know that we're made up of mostly water and liquid. What happens to the moon and in our solar system, it does affect us when we talk astrology talk and all this spiritual stuff, right? So it does affect us. And then what to do on this day. Now in my last, on this day, meaning Monday. Now in my last video, I mentioned, because I do read tarot and I do practice meditation and energy work, I personally feel for myself, and I wanted to clarify that from the last video, if it wasn't clear, that I personally wouldn't read cards or pull on any kind of energy or anything like that. It's more of a time to go within, to ground yourself, and to ask yourself what can I do to bring more peace to myself, for myself, right? What can I do that will better myself? So what I had written down is, of course, the grounding meditation that I mentioned, but also if you don't feel like meditating, and the meditation should be a mantra meditation that is grounding. And I'll definitely be doing that in my Reiki circle on Wednesday, because 3 days before the solar eclipse and 3 days after, you still feel the effects pretty much like a full moon and new moon. However, the most important thing is that on Monday, if you're doing any kind of energy work, and it all depends on your tradition too, but for most people that practice energy work, they will know this, and if you don't know this, now you know, yay. All right. So if you're not going to do any kind of mantra for grounding, or you can also add this to it, which is journaling. So you can ask yourself, who am I now, right? So you're going within, right? So you're asking yourself, who am I now, right? And you can take as many pages as you want and write that down, right? And then you can burn it, if you will, a couple days later, right? Or keep it, write it down. And then who do I want to be is another question you can ask yourself. Another one you can ask is, what am I grateful for? Okay, so those are like the 3 questions you can ask, and I figured to do 3 because we have Leo, we have Aries, and we have Sagittarius. Okay, and then for the North Node question would be, who do I want to be? That's kind of like a North Node question, right? It's pulling on, okay, who am I for this life, right? And oh, I didn't mention that too. Okay, so for the North Node, it's all about this life, right? But sometimes we can have effects of past life, if you believe in that, right? So what are we learning in this life, and what from our past life is affecting us? Or if you don't believe in past life, then what from my childhood and from what or old belief systems or belief system I still have, is it helping me now? And how is that playing in my life now? Am I going through a battle, in my mind of, what's good here, right? So then let's look at Uranus. Uranus is all about change, the energy to change things. It's an electric energy, right? That sky god, that forward thinking, right? So that's, who do I want to be, right? It's still also, who do I want to be? Same with the North Node. So it can have that same essence along with it. And then the Saturn is restrictive, right? So it could be about, boundaries, setting up boundaries, right? So for me, I would look at that, and with the boundaries, the delays, discipline, skills, organization, a messenger, a preacher. It gets that message across in a very preachy way. But don't miss the message, right? So that Saturn energy what I would pull from it is discipline, right? And if that word discipline doesn't work for you, then being organized, right? Or having a practice every day. So then you're asking yourself, it falls in line with who do I want to be, but also who am I now? So really giving yourself, it falls in line with both of those questions. It's like, okay, you want to be free thinking and to be free. That's great for that Saturn energy. All the fire signs are very, you know, they do not want to be held down. So for that Saturn energy, for the journaling, who am I and who do I want to be, that also fits in with those questions as well. So those three journaling questions I feel would help under the solar eclipse. If you guys have any comments, please feel free to comment questions, and I'm happy to answer them. I would love to hear feedback. And after the solar eclipse, what was your experience? So definitely share that as well. We're never too young or old to learn something new and to implement something new in our life to better ourselves. Always learning, always growing, and teach, learn, take it all in. And I hope that everyone enjoys Monday and is safe. I know that some people are viewing it. Some schools are viewing it, some schools are not. So yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to share with everyone. I hope everyone has have a wonderful Sunday and a wonderful Monday and rest of the week. Don't look at it, at the eclipse, with your naked eye. It's very dangerous. I know you guys are probably watching the news. I don't have TV, I go online, but you know, so we want to be careful about that. And yeah, just whatever you're doing, be safe, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace. Namaste. Sat Nam.